Welcome to the Linebreak Rugby podcast. Today with your host Sav, that's me. We also have Ed and Corey. Corey being the New Zealander. Because New Zealand haven't really played for a while, don't be surprised if we try and force Corey into conversations in which he has little to know nothing about. But you're happy with that, Corey, right?
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
Just we're going to throw you in the deep end.
If you're here against your will, cough once.
But as normal, that was Ed. As normal, we're going to start with players of the weekend, who we thought did quite well over the weekend and who we thought needs a little bit more improvement just from that one game. Maybe a series of games, but I think Ed has a couple of positives and a couple of improvements that he wants to talk about.
Well, I think my positive definitely is going to be Owen Farrell, because he's only been back from a back injury for about 4 weeks, and after his first game back just about helped completely take apart Toulon at home, he seems to have developed. I don't know whether it's just being under Eddie Jones or whether it's just the next step in his improvement as a player, but the way he's attacking the line, the way he's drawing defenders in, the way he's putting players into space, it's improved a lot, and he's very clearly getting a lot better. So, I think
a lot of what Farrell needs to work on is taking that defensive line speed that he has and applying it to an attack situation.
Yeah, well, I think he is getting better at that. He's attacking holes better. He's whereas before you could have said he is an exceptional defensive 10, which I still think he is. Over the last year under Eddie Jones, he's getting better and better at attacking, but it is starting to show more and more, and it's becoming more evidence that he is slightly more attack orientated.
Yeah, hopefully that comes through in the autumn internationals. Now, you said, I know you've eyed someone up for a little bit of an improvement as well.
Well, I couldn't decide watching the match. I watched 3 or 4 games over the weekend, and quite a few of them were just fairly uneventful. But the one I watched with, I suppose, paid most attention to was Saracens against Leicester, and I couldn't decide exactly where to place blame on how exactly Tigers played so poorly, and it's either Owen Williams or Ben Youngs, or it's just all Richard Cockerill's fault.
It could be a combination of the two of them. I mean,
possibly.
If we talk about Owen Williams,
I mean
there was a lot of talk that Freddie Burns should have been, not Freddie Burns.
No, it is Freddie Burns. He should have started.
Yeah.
It's really watching how the two teams executed various plays was almost bizarre, because every time Saracens would get the ball out in the back, Alex Good or one of the wings, they'd make a huge amount of yards, and if they chose to kick, they'd be hammering it into space and finding touch, and even if they conceded the line out, they'd still manage to regain possession, because Tigers were constantly kicking the ball away, and they were either going straight into touch or going straight into Alex Good's hands, who would then counter-attack. And it was so, I don't know, frustrating to watch that all of the pressure Tigers were under, they were under because of how they were going about what they were doing. It was all their own fault. I mean, if you ignore even the few stupid things like Ben Youngs throwing a pass to someone's ankles or knocking on at a ruck with no pressure, it's that axis, there was just something not clicking there.
I think it's certainly, and this is what worries me about the English squad that's been named, because what you've just put forward is obviously one of the best teams.
Yeah,
I'd argue one of the best club teams in the world right now, playing against an international standard scrum half, and Owen Williams, who has come up and said, look, I'm available for Wales, and he's playing quite well until he broke his jaw, and I thought he was in with a shot perhaps, but then he got injured. And you can see that they completely shut Ben Youngs down, and they completely shut Owen Williams down. Freddie Burns came on and he gave a bit of something, but it worries me that the England squad have only picked 2 scrum halves.
Yeah. The other issue then is that Danny Kerr.
I can't see a reason why. Yeah, but I can't see a reason why Robson's not in the picture.
Yeah, or Spencer, quite frankly, because I agree.
Yeah.
I think Danny Kerr has been in very, very questionable form for at least all of this season, and I find it bizarre that we've gone.
Kerr had a very poor start to the season, I'd say. He's come in the last few games. He's come good. Obviously, when they beat Saracens, and he scored a decent follow-up try at the weekend.
Yeah.
And certainly, there's as always with Kerr, there's sparks of brilliance, but I just really struggle with the way you watch how Wasps have been playing and how Robson has actually come forward and played quite well. Like, he hasn't been fantastic.
Yeah.
And obviously he's battling with Simpson over the same position. But he's very quick. And when he made the step up, for me, when he made the step up for the Saxons, he showed, to me at least, that he was able to make the step up to international level because he played very well. Yes, perhaps there was a team playing easier opposition. But I think that Robson behind a big bruising pack, which is what England had before Itoje and all these injuries, I think I can see Robson playing well. I don't know. I don't know if I'm overstating his skills, but I think there's Dan Robson and there's Spencer, and I think Spencer is more of a...
Simpson too.
I see Spencer as being very creative. The problem with Simpson is age.
Yeah.
I think... I mean, I'm not 100% on that, but I think that's what Eddie Jones holds against him the most.
The form is all there, which is frustrating. But I mean, we're taking... Well, I say taking... We've got in the full elite player squad, I think we've got 3 10s and 3 fullbacks. We've only got 2 scrum halves, and I just find it a bit weird because...
Well, there's Slade, Farrell and Ford.
And Lazowski.
Is that the 3 10s? And Lazowski.
Yeah.
So that's
Slade's
4
centre,
technical 10s. I mean, Slade can play centres. Yeah, well, he has played centres most of his life.
But it just strikes
and
me
then you've got Good, Brown, and
Haley.
Who's the other 15?
Mike Haley.
Haley's coming as well. Well,
So
I think Haley could be good cover for the wing.
Yeah. But even
I know it's not perhaps his natural, but...
We've got wing-wise, we've got May, we've got Yard, we've got Rocco, and Haley covers on the wing. So the point is we are fairly stacked. We've got a great amount of depth when it comes to the back line. And yet we're only taking 2 scrum halves, which means that one of them is only going to join the training camp if Youngs or Kerr picks up a knock. And that just strikes me as a rather, I don't want to say naive, but that's probably the closest word to it.
So I'm gonna drag in another whole country here, and I think maybe Fov can talk about it. I'm not sure actually. He might not be able to, but New Zealand are playing Ireland, right? We know this. Chicago in Chicago, right? Soldiers Field, is that where they
Soldier
play?
Field, yeah.
That's the one, yeah.
Soldier Field. That's the one, right? So we have 4 technical fly halves. Ireland are only bringing 2, Sexton and Carberry. Do either of you know much about them?
Well, Sexton is Ireland's incumbent. I have heard that Paddy Jackson isn't going for personal reasons. So I assume...
Paddy Jackson, personally I think Paddy Jackson is... he would be the heir apparent, I would say. He's actually playing really well. His kicks are pretty good. And his attacking game is very strong. I quite like Paddy Jackson as a 10.
Yeah.
But Harble, our resident Irishman, is absolutely raving about Carberry. And I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. I've only ever seen it written. He's only played 10 games, 10 professional games, I think, for Leinster. And he's been picked to go to America and maybe face the All Blacks in his first international sub appearance.
Well, not maybe. I mean, they're gonna bring on.
Well, he
subs.
might get on if Sexton plays 80, but I don't think Sexton can.
But it's Sexton, 80. So he might get injured.
But it's this massive disparity between Ireland. You have 4 setups, you have 4 major teams, and somehow they've ended up with 2 Leinster fly halves as being their only option because Paddy Jackson's out. There's a couple of others that aren't particularly great. I think it's Ronaldson, maybe. I don't know if I'm getting his name wrong. who was an option, but it for some reason hasn't been picked. So I don't know. I think that the strength of depth of the Aviva Prem is actually showing up and saying, look, it doesn't matter how many injuries we've got someone else to replace that guy.
Well, yeah, but it's pushing it in some positions. But it's not like we have Barretts falling out of our arse, which is, it's New Zealand can cross a continent and lose half a dozen brothers of one family, and yet they've still not lost any discernible amount of strength.
Well, it is worrying when who is it? Retallick gets an injury and they just go, oh, we'll put a Barrett in that position.
By the way, we've got 5 Barretts. It's fine, it's horrendous.
Just bring in another one. And is Geordie gonna start outside Bowden and then have all the Barretts on the pitch at the same time? Is that the? I doubt he's gonna start, but may he get on the pitch? What's the feeling?
From what I understand, I think Geordie Barrett is going as an apprentice, so much like Artie Sevilla was recently, like not in a playing sense, just going to get a taste for the atmosphere. But Kane Barrett has been is he going long? I know one of them got ruled out, so Via Fafita got included, which is exciting me to no end. But I'm pretty sure Kane Barrett was involved as well. Hang on a second. But yeah, from what I understand, Geordie wouldn't be playing, but he is going.
I think perhaps he's going to do a Mackenzie. When Mackenzie travelled, I can't remember, did he travel to Argentina or did he? Mackenzie travelled somewhere and then he didn't play, didn't even get on the pitch. Nothing happened particularly. But he travelled out there, he got the atmosphere, and I think Hansen does that quite a lot with the newbies and the young guns. And this is, I mean, remember, this is a guy who... He hasn't actually played in Super Rugby yet, has he? He's signed for the Hurricanes. Has he? He hasn't had a Super Rugby game yet.
No, I don't think he has.
Right?
I just saw him playing in the weekend for Canterbury in their win over Tasman. Are we talking about Geordie still?
Which is a high, Geordie, yeah. But it's a high standard, but it's not Super Rugby.
Yeah, definitely not quite at that level.
I mean, I'm looking at the players, and obviously Mwanga's playing and Sapawanga, and there are that's a high caliber of rugby, but is not necessarily the same sort of deal as Super Rugby.
Nah.
If we move from yeah, go on.
Oh no, that's all right. I think the delay sets me back about a half second being over here in the future.
Oh, being in the future. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think our voices will be out of sync, but perhaps they will be. I don't know. We're going to sync it as best we can. If we move on from the Barrett brothers, we are planning on talking about Scotland and North America in the next few podcasts because obviously we've got hopefully a Scottish, I'd say fan, a person more knowledgeable about Scotland than I am, and some North American fans as well off the subreddit who want to talk about perhaps a little bit of their international stance and the autumn internationals, their hopes and dreams for what's going to be happening.
Cool.
New Zealand, I'm assuming your hopes and dream is just going to be to beat everybody.
Yeah, it would be nice to continue to kick everyone's ass. Yes.
Essentially. My next question is actually for Corey. Is you brought up Sevilla? Obviously, he had that introduction to rugby. Do you think he's going to permanently take Sam Cane's position, or do you think that the Sam Cane air job is going to remain with Sam Cane?
I think they've put not like it's going to be a sunk cost fallacy with Sam Cane, but I think they've put so much time and effort into him. They're not gonna pull him out because I think they see more than what I do about Sam Cane. He obviously gets through a massive load of work that I don't quite notice until someone points out to me, and blow by blow I realise what he's been doing. Sevilla is like one of those glory players who's fantastic with the ball in hand, but you don't see him doing too much of that hard grafting work that say someone like McCaw would have made his name doing. And I can see them sticking with Cane, and I can see it working as well. I know people love seeing Sevilla get unleashed on teams when they're tired, but I think that's probably how it's going to stay for the time being, unless he pulls a Bowden Barrett out of his ass and just starts outplaying everyone in his position.
But that's another thought. I mean, for years, everybody was talking about Barrett being a bench player. Barrett's excellent off the bench, running at tired legs. He's fantastic at doing that. And everybody said, Cruden, Carter, everybody else, all these other players, obviously Carter was almost a generation ahead of Barrett, but all these players, they're more consistent. They do the well-rounded game, and they can kick off the tee, which is becoming more of a conversation piece as we go on, and Barrett keeps on missing kicks. And actually, I've looked at the stats of that. Technically, Barrett has increased his kicking percentage over this last year. And so he's actually getting better, despite the fact that he's actually getting more abuse for it. I think the problem is, and this is coming from someone who's just looked at the stats, is that Dan Carter's kicking percentage at club and Super Rugby level was actually quite bad, but his kicking percentage at international level was always above 83%. It was actually really, really strong. He made a massive step up when he played at international level.
Right. So, like, people comparing Barrett to Carter probably unfairly, given the nature of both their gameplays.
They're comparing. There's two. I put Carter in a category where there's two different Carters. There's a Carter that made a massive step up on kicking duties, and especially the Rugby World Cup. I think he had nearly 90% kick rate in the Rugby World Cup, which compared to his 73%, 74% at Super Rugby is a bit bizarre. I don't know what changes in a man that he's suddenly kicking 10%.
It's the darkness.
It is the ball just
it's that so-called black magic.
It's weird looking at
I believe
stats.
it. No,
I don't know how anyone
I
else
can
has looked
believe
at
it. I mean, if you look at players like Mar Nonu, for instance, where he can seem a bit of a wild card, perhaps, I suppose, at club when he was playing for, I want to say the Hurricanes.
Yeah, he's a perfect example of that, and steps up.
Where his tackling technique would be kind of, to...
lean a shoulder.
If he was
into
a car,
jaw.
he'd be trying to, ram someone else off the road, kind of, when he tackles. He's full on shoulder into the side. I'm exaggerating here, but when he comes on for the All Blacks, he's an entirely new player. He seems to tackle much better, and I suppose it's just whatever that jersey does to help bring that team together, to help them play as a unit under the silver fern.
There is something.
I think there is something
magical.
discernible there that can be rooted to the answer as why play and talent kind of takes a step up.
I think that's something that England have tried to create, perhaps
replicate,
with the Rose idea,
yeah.
And certain other things. They've tried to really create this team ethos, which was interesting under Lancaster, and it created this positive vibe, but it didn't necessarily do the same thing for some reason. Like people,
very, very strong drive for it at the moment in the women's game.
Yes, and that, to be honest, can be only positive. And I'm hoping actually that actually builds a little bit of interest in the game, and it can start really expanding. Hopefully, we're going to be talking about the women's game at some point, and
with an actual woman.
I think there's, but I think there's a point where we shouldn't separate the two games like it is rugby. Yeah, it's played by women, but it's not the women's game. I actually found myself. I just had to check myself there because it's not a different game. It's still rugby.
Yeah.
So calling it the women's game perhaps isn't the best way to describe it. But we're going to be talking about women who play rugby, shall we say? And try and get some insight on how they think they can build the game and move forward with, which has been positive because there's been quite a few professional players that have just come and been signed into the England team. And the Sevens did really well. So yeah, it's been interesting. I want to talk about that viral video, actually.
Which one? The one with the ball that comes back, or the one with the Welsh lady who is better than the Welsh men?
Not the Welsh. I haven't seen the Welsh lady one. I'm talking about the ball that comes back.
The ball one. Oh, with Charlotte Caslick.
Caslick.
That's all I took away from that video. I'm still completely enamoured after the World Cup. Not the World Cup. The Olympic Sevens. There's what is that video for, though? It's really weird.
I don't know what that video is for. So I commented in the thread saying, I don't understand what I've been advertised. If this isn't real, what have I been advertised?
Well,
if
I'm
it
sure
is
I said
real,
something similar.
why can I not buy it or do something that means that I can acquire or understand this technology? There's no explanation. People seem to be posting it as if it's true no matter what. I saw the Wooden Spoon charity, it was like a rugby charity thing.
So
I saw them post it.
For context, then, this is Charlotte Caslick gets past the ball and boots it over the posts, and it stays there. And then she gets past another ball and she boots it over the post. And then after touching some gadget on her watch, it rolls back to her. And for some reason, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's spread as if someone has paid to have it spread initially, and then it's spread from there, if you understand what I'm saying. So it seemed to come out of nowhere, and this is what happens with viral videos, and then suddenly it was everywhere in front of us and everyone was commenting on it, and it's just a bit kind of strange. But I didn't really understand the point. I suppose we're talking about it, so that's the point.
We've fallen into their trap. What have you done to us?
Yeah, we have, but I didn't know what I was being advertised, and I'm not going to mention the brand of rugby ball. Maybe we've mentioned the brand of rugby ball already, but I feel like maybe that was the sell, but it didn't actually have the name of the rugby ball on the rugby ball. It just had the symbol. So I don't know. I feel like I've been conned, but I don't know why or for what reason.
Maybe something will turn up on Kickstarter in the next week.
Maybe that'll be an interesting pre-campaign sort of thing.
It's just weird though, because I still don't see the point.
I still don't fully understand the point of having a ball that comes back to you, other than you can kicking practice on your own. It's just an expensive way if you don't have any friends to
also
kick.
Assuming the video isn't fabricated, which I suspect it probably is. Clearly, a ball that has inside it any kind of mechanism to cause itself
some kind of
to
weight
roll,
to it,
and it's going to have a weight or a motor or a rotor, and so it's not going to kick the same as an actual ball, and so that is pointless.
Completely pointless.
Yeah, it would fly like a brick. It'd be no point. Yeah.
But the idea was that it didn't. Yeah, I know. I completely agree with you. It doesn't make any sense. And the more you talk it through it, the more strange it sounds. That's why I'm just immediately jumping on the idea that it's an advert, but I didn't know what I was advertised. So, yeah, what's this Welsh woman better than a Welsh man?
It's for something for Admiral Insurance. It's kind of weird. They've got like 6 or 7 Welsh players, some of the guys, some of the girls, against a team of people from Admiral or whatever, and they get one of the Welsh women's 7 stars to dress up in an Admiral uniform, and then the first half she's knocking the ball on and falling over and everyone's laughing. It's like ha 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 ha, and then in the second half she does these like fake passes or pop passes and then runs through past Ken Owens and then does this thing where she moves the ball behind her back, drops it, and then punts it over her head with the back of her foot and runs through the gap, and Ken Owens looks confused again. And I can't work out whether the entire thing is just some weird fabrication, some staged crap, because quite frankly, none of them, it's supposed to be clear that while she's in the uniform that no one knows who she is and she's just some weird person dressed up like an admiral while playing rugby. And then she takes off the hat at the end and the wig, and then she shows she's got a Welsh shirt on underneath, and frankly the actual players look like they still don't know who she is. Again, it's clearly it's because
bad acting on the players'
it's just
part.
weird. Admiral are the sponsors of Wales's shirt, but the whole thing it's bizarre. There's some great skill on show when she like turns it on, but it's just weird.
It just sounds like a poorly directed advert, to be honest with you. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment.
Oh, you should.
Well, maybe I'll have a look. We were talking earlier about Sexton and Carberry.
Yeah. Didn't touch on
and
that.
And I was talking about kicking percentages because that's all I ever do. I would like to point out that I think there's a lot more to 10s than being able to kick well.
Says
but
10.
Again, I'm going to bring it up. Says the 10 that doesn't stop talking about kicking. I'm going to talk about Sexton kicking at posts and his percentage being really, really high, and Carberry. I keep saying his name like that. Don't know if that's how you say his name, but essentially, people don't know whether he can kick at posts. He hasn't taken kicks at posts, I believe. and people are worried that if he comes on against the All Blacks and has to kick a penalty in the last minute to win the game.
Well, that's patently unfair because last time, well, not last time, but one of the last times Sexton played the All Blacks, he missed a couple of kicks and the whole rugby world went at him anyway. So I think to say that it's, with Carberry misses, they're going to get angry and feral either way.
I don't think they would get angry at the young gun, but I think they're worried about it.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Should we talk about international New Zealand players specifically in the England squad then?
Well, actually, no, that's something I do want to, because before we started recording, we were chatting. I want to ask Corey. I know that we've got. Let's try and work this out because we've got Hartley, and we've got Timana Harrison.
And
Timana Harrison, Ben Tate. Well, and Nathan Hughes. But I'm more focusing on Hartley and Harrison because they both played some club rugby. I mean, I know they played school rugby in New Zealand. Did they play any club rugby before they came over here?
I can hear a furious typing.
I hear typing, which means he doesn't know.
idea.
It's fine. I was curious as to whether or not he had any exposure to them before England. Really, how the heck? Hartley's got 75 caps.
Has he?
Jeez.
Wow.
Well, he's been around for a while. He
That's
is one of
true.
the
I didn't
older
realise it was
generation.
That many.
And part of his reason for not going to France, remember, was the fact that he wanted to play in England for England. He fully dedicated the fact that he wanted to play at international level. So I can see that his main aim in life is to get to 100 caps. Do I think he'll make it?
Probably won't.
Maybe, but he might. His last few caps might be off the bench. Maybe.
Well, we've got George coming through. We've got likes of LCD in the wing, waiting in the wings. So it
looks like Ben Teo played for NRL. West Tigers was his opening career. So that's Sydney. So he played in Australia for a long time. I know that obviously I knew he came from the NRL, but he's I don't think he's played in New Zealand. He moved to Australia at the age of 17.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Teo at least has played quite a lot of rugby in New Zealand for under 16s. And then obviously he's moved to Australia and become a league player for a long time. Have you got anything up about Harrison or Hartley?
I'm just looking through Hartley now. I can't see anything outside of playing for Rotorua Boys High School. Brilliant rugby school that it is. I can't see anything beyond that. So maybe after he finished up there, he shifted overseas.
Is that so? If we talk about high schools, is that one of the better high schools? I mean, I don't know anything about New Zealand.
It's definitely changed a little bit in recent years. It used to be the boys' high schools, so Rotorua Boys, Christchurch Boys, Hamilton Boys, I suppose Auckland Grammar as well. They were the big ones. More recently, St Kentigern's, which is as far as I know, it's the only co-ed school to have won it in a very long time. They won the co-ed national championship a few years back. Then the next year they won the national one, which was pretty awesome to see. Just a different school change it up. And so normally it would be Rotorua Boys, Hamilton Boys. Those just anything with boys in it, they've got a good chance if they're from the North Island. But
because they've got a bigger pool of players. Perhaps,
exactly. So like the school I went to down south had at best 480 pupils in general, and so everyone played rugby, but we were a pretty tiny school. Whereas an all boys high school, just it's all about the rugby, and they're all there, and they're all getting some crazy training. So yeah, Rotorua Boys is one of the a very very good school. I think they won that Sanix World Championship a couple of times.
Okay. I see. I don't know what the Sanix World Championship is, but I'm interested in that winning quite a lot. So
yeah, it's like
anyway.
No, sorry.
Go for it. No, go on, explain it, because I mean I don't have a clue about the New Zealand schoolboy competition. The schoolboy competition over here is basically private schools win a lot, and the state schools turn up and then get knocked out in round 3. Because essentially the first 2 rounds are the state schools play each other, and if they beat each other, they get to go to round 3, where the private schools then get introduced.
Right.
And then as soon as the private schools get introduced, most of the state schools get knocked out. Apart from John Fisher, maybe. John Fisher sometimes make it reasonably far. But again, they're an anomaly, I would say, in the fact that all they talk about at school is rugby, all they do is rugby, and their biggest rivals are Whitgift, who are probably one of the best rugby schools in the UK. Not the best, but one of them for sure. So, I mean, schoolboy rugby is quite interesting. I'd like to know about the Irish schoolboy rugby as well. I know Harbaugh has quite a lot to talk about. Yeah, the Irish schoolboy rugby is quite interesting. I saw Harbaugh posting some stuff about, I can't remember the school now. It wasn't like Castle Rock or something. I can't remember. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it if we don't understand it. But apparently the Irish schoolboy rugby is actually...
That's our specialty on this podcast, though, isn't it?
Just talking about nonsense.
Talking about shit we don't know.
Talking about shit that we don't know. What autumn international tests are coming up, Ed?
Autumn there's one that so far I can't find the time of, which is I say it's not even a full test. USA against there's 3 and 2 half tests happening this weekend.
This weekend?
Okay. This weekend, and that's I might be saying that in a stupid way, but I don't care. USA are playing the Maori, which I suppose is a half test. Japan are playing Argentina. That should be fairly entertaining, but I suspect Argentina should crush it. Wales are playing Australia. I suspect they'll lose in the last 3 minutes by about a point. Ireland are playing New Zealand in Soldier Field, and Barbarians are playing South Africa, which is the other half test. Because it's not actually a full test because we don't get caps for playing the Barbarians, except Wales.
Except Wales,
for some reason.
You said earlier. Do we know why Wales get full caps for playing the Barbarians? Is that just a random?
I think they just like padding their numbers. I suspect.
They like padding. Okay.
Yeah, that's clearly what it is. There's no internal bias here against any of our leakist brothers. No, I honestly don't know, but I think I'm fairly sure they are the only team that play them in fully capped matches, and I'm not sure why they do that, because I suppose that's probably a better topic for another time, but because the Barbarians is invitational, and none of those players are gaining caps for anything.
Well,
whereas
they all wear their club socks, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And that, I mean, the closest thing to Barbarians is the Lions, but the Lions is a test side, and their opposition get caps, and the Lions get capped as the Lions, but Barbarians don't get capped as the Barbarians. It's just, do you want to come play for us? Chuck the ball around and...
Yeah, obviously, the barbarian mentality is one of the best and most exciting things.
We do definitely need to... Maybe it's worth having another chat this week before I ramble on too long, but Barbarians against South Africa. Coetzee, South Africa's coach, the other day put out something saying... something about the way they were going to play against the Barbarians. And it sounds... I can't remember exactly what it said, but it annoyed me because as far as I'm concerned, when the Barbarians come to town to play, it is an excuse for throwing the ball around with just reckless abandon.
Nobody minds if you... So this is my opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not 100% right, but nobody minds if you concede a million tries against the Barbarians.
It's generally a practice run for less experienced players. The Barbarians itself, the tradition that it is just a very... It's very, running rugby. There's very little kicking for the post, and normally the only time I'm ever happy, I say happy, that might not be the best word, don't mind so much booing in the stadiums. When the Barbarians play and teams choose to kick for the posts, people boo immediately at the decision. Not the kicking, but the decision, which I think is brilliant because it encourages them to, kick for touch and then sling it down the side of the pitch. And South Africa's coach has come in and basically said, this is going to be like massively forward orientated and it's going to be really slow and dull and boring and shit. And I'm annoyed by it. Because it's no, honestly, like the last few games with England, I think England, last year maybe, the final score was like 70 plus to 12 for England, but their games last year and the year before against Argentina and Australia were easily two of the best rugby matches I've ever watched. As in the most fun I've ever had watching rugby match, and I think that's the kind of spirit that Barbarians should have.
So we've
really moved on from whatever point we were at. But,
no. It's fantastic point of view, and I really love the spirit of the Barbarians.
Could segue that back to New Zealand, but that would be rather crass.
We've well, I know we could segue it back to that to New Zealand, but more on a club ethos sort of thing. So, obviously, Aaron Smith has had some fun in some disabled toilets, shall we say, and Hansen didn't take kindly to it. He decided to drop him for a period of time. In the same way that when the Hurricanes came back, correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, but they missed their curfew by a period of time, some of the players?
Yeah, I think it was a couple of the forwards. I remember reading about it and sort of just because it was a curfew thing, I sort of just passed it off, thinking, oh yeah, no, that they'll do their penance and carry on. But what happened with that?
And certainly, I know that they just didn't start the next game. I don't think they played, actually. They may have just been completely taken off the team. I think it was the Sevillas. Was it the Sevillas? They missed by half an hour or something, breaking their player's contract or something.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was a player. It wasn't so much the management, but the players themselves imposed that curfew, and when they broke it by half an hour, so that they just had to deal with the consequences of that. And I think that's good that it was. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm quite tired here, but they dealt with it in their own way, which was good to see.
Yeah, and I think that's part of perhaps building a club ethos, which I'm kind of interested in Eddie Jones's approach. He actually wants the brash ethos. He wants that aggressive, in-your-face ethos, which I think is what Cheika's been trying to do as well in Australia. And I don't know how effective it is. I quite enjoy the brash, in-your-face ethos, but also having that respect off the pitch, which is so sought after. That's a very fine line to walk. I think you're right that Cheika in particular is trying to get that ethos involved with the team, but unfortunately I don't think it'll work well for him because it's the only way he knows how to go about it. I think it works for certain people, for certain clubs, but I think at a certain point you need to be able to adjust to whatever's been put in front of you or whatever's happened to you. I feel like he's a little bit singular in his approach, and I mean, yeah, it's great. He's a controversial person. He's he definitely can. You can. I'm trying to keep losing my train of thought there, but basically, I like him. I think he's great. I think he's super passionate. He just swears his face off. I feel bad for him because as soon as something goes against the Wallabies, the camera just jumps straight to him because they know he's going to be doing something. And Hansen barely blinks at all. He's just cool, yeah. And it's a fantastic watch.
It is, and I feel bad for him because I think he's passionate. He just loves the game, loves his team, but I do think that, as you were saying before, he's trying to impart that kind of ethos on the team. But I think that's the only way he knows how to go about it, and I think that's going to hold him back. Yeah,
I think in that respect, he can be a little bit narrow-minded. Because obviously he's so passionate. Obviously he loves the game, and obviously he loves expressing his opinions. I think they're getting cleverer at it. Who was the Aussie? Was it an Aussie commentator saying that someone should never ref again because of a call?
Kearnsey.
That was about Nigel Owens, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that.
He
said that
ridiculous.
He shouldn't ref again ever.
Fucking
He's
Kearnsey.
terrible. But I think that they do that so that Cheika doesn't have to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you could be right.
Because Cheika wants to. You know that he wants to come out in the press and just F and blind and say all of these things about referees, but the Aussies have to do it for him because otherwise he'll get turned on by the media anyway.
Yeah, and I remember reading about this on the sub actually. People were saying that Kearnsey plays up to that role, being abrasive, saying some controversial shit on over the airwaves, and I can understand that. I'd believe that if he was just playing that part. I don't like him. I think he's a dick, but that just maybe he's being effective. He's doing his job well.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously they do it, and this is part of the problem with it's what sells. I actually really hate that as a justification for doing anything. If your only justification for something is it sells, maybe something else is wrong.
That's like the entire media in a nutshell, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It just frustrates me when that's ever it's immoral, it's blah. Oh yeah, but it sells. Well, how about the selling?
Well,
maybe.
If you think it's one of the things, it's one of the things I quite liked about Eddie Jones in that, whereas Lancaster was always very, we're sensible, we're not going to be aggressive, we've got this set way of doing things, but Eddie Jones is, if he takes enough shit from the media, the players don't have to deal with it. And so he'll either make outlandish claims or be as brash as needs be, so that the focus that the media want and are clawing for is focused on him, and the players can get down to doing the job that they need to without the distractions or, any trail following them of the way the media affects people. If you take my meaning.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I do kind of, because I brought this up before, but Johnny Wilkinson, one of the contributing factors for him moving to France was the hounding he got from the media when he was over here. And so to have, if he'd had something of a buffer in the way Eddie Jones has been to a fair few players, because I'm sure Johnny had his fair share of his own demons when it came to practicing, but to have that lumped on for the extra pressure that's thrown on by those outside sources, to have a blocker there, I think could have done him a fair amount of good. Not that France didn't do him brilliantly, but
So if we want to rant and rave about media, which I'm actually quite inclined to do, there's often this myth, I think, perpetuated by the media that the world needs them. The world needs the media because we do this and we do that, and we bring you the news and entertainment, and you wouldn't be able to exist without us. But I just think at some point you have to look at it and you go, a media exists because there's a market for it, sure, but is it a needed market? Like, are you fulfilling anything in my life that couldn't be fulfilled by just going about my day? Not really. It's interesting, and that's why it sells, but it's not necessarily useful, perhaps, in any sort of tangible way. I don't know if that's a weird point of view, but I don't know. It confuses me that the media puts such this high standard of itself.
Ooh.
And isn't necessarily as useful as perhaps they want to make us believe.
Breaking news.
Go on.
The Lions shirt will be unveiled today.
It'll be unveiled. Well, they unveiled it in a hologram, didn't they?
I have no idea. I'm just reading Facebook.
Oh, so the jerseys will be hologram.
No, look, fans getting a glimpse of news.
The jerseys are just going to be projected onto the players while they run around. It's going to make tackling very different.
What a time to be alive. Excellent.
They're going to oil them up underneath and hide it with hologram.
I'm still positive that's how. I'm still positive that the reason Corey Jane was able to be so elusive from tackles was basically covering himself with butter before every match, so that every time someone tries to grab a hold of him, he just glides through their grip.
Everyone knows that Corey Jane was just slippery because of that fend.
Oh man,
boosh.
It was that left hand.
Back in the day, I mean, even nowadays it's pretty good, but he's a bit slower now. But that fend. Oh,
it was just so weird coming from such, like, he's a slight person as a professional rugby player. He's not a huge guy, but just that piston of an arm just coming at you, just you can't fight it.
Some people just get it right. There was a guy I used to play for. He was quite small, or play with anyway. He was quite small, but when he handed you off, you felt like you'd been punched in the chest. Like I'd seen him lift opposition 12s up.
Oh, he did the Dean Mum, did he?
Punching them. Yeah, it was horrible. It's one of the most disgusting things you see. And every time I watch Corey Jane do it, I just think back to that moment as I was like 15 or whatever, watching some other kid get punched in the chest and just thinking, I'm happy I'm on his team, to be honest. I'm happy I'm on this side of the pitch. So yeah, I mean, if we talk about fens, I mean, Corey Jane's is fantastic. Dean Mums, and who was that against?
That was just
someone went too high, and he got lifted.
And he got turned upside down. It was brilliant.
dropped on his back. Who else has a fantastic fend? I'm trying to think. Rocco's just got fantastic feet. Nobody has an amazing fend in the English team, actually, now that I think about it. I can't think of anyone.
Marcel Coetzee. Coetzee?
Does he have a fend?
No, that's who Mum was handing off.
Oh. Oh, he lifted him off his
I'm
feet
trying
and
to...
dumped him in his back.
Oh, no, I need to bring this up, and I still haven't found footage of it. This is brilliant. Everyone needs to look for this. Going right back to the beginning of the pod, it's Saracens against Tigers this past weekend had one of the most fantastic moments of any rugby match I've ever watched. You know how when a big fend comes along, there's the two types. The one where the guy just hands out his arms straight, but then there's the kind where the player gets, part way round and the sprung arm extends and pushes them away. Owen Farrell went to tackle Ellis Genge, right?
Yeah.
Now, Farrell is no slouch when it comes to tackling, but this was amazing. He kind of jumps into it to use all his force to bring it down, and he just gets pushed right onto the floor like he's nothing, like he's a sandbag.
The ragdoll effect.
It's incredible. Genge barely notices it. Farrell runs at him, launches, and then bam, he's just down on the ground, and Genge is passing the ball off to someone else. It was incredible, and I recommend everyone go and watch that. I'm going to try and see if I can find it, but I suspect I won't.
I haven't seen any gifs. I imagine that would be reasonably top.
I'm so annoyed it wasn't gift immediately, and it's not. I'm going to have to. Oh, it is really disappointing.
Yeah.
But honestly,
Well,
it was quality fend. It might not even have been a fend. Farrell might have just bounced off him.
Genge is one of these abrasive players which I can see Eddie Jones really liking.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. The fact that we've got Genge is a loose head, yeah.
I haven't. Does he wear 3 on his back? I don't know.
I can't remember. I'm just trying to think. The fact that Mako Vunipola being in the form he's in, but we've got Sinclair and Genge coming along with George, and I think that's a front row for the future.
And I think the way, I think the way Sinclair's carrying, certainly he's fighting for those positions. I'm excited for the future of rugby. I think it's moving forwards. I think that the women playing are coming out, and obviously they're getting professional players involved. And hopefully they can get a league that is on TV. I think the key for everybody, and again, this is the media which I actually dislike, and perhaps I was talking more about print media, but you do need to be on TV if you want to move to the next level, and I think that's part of the reason why the championship struggles.
Are you saying that we should have a TV show instead of a podcast?
Well, certainly we could
That
put some
sounds like what you're
images
saying.
onto the YouTubes, and actually have something for people to look at. And I think long term we will have something for people to look at. At the moment, we don't have either the budget or the time to do that,
or the faces,
but or the visual, yeah, brutal. All the
faces.
Perhaps Corey could bring one of his harem. Is it harem? Harem? I don't know. How do you say it? Literally only have it spelled.
I suppose harem.
Harem.
Harem
scarum.
One of my many wenches, concubines.
One of the wenches, yeah. Corey can bring those in, and they can present to us some stuff. So yeah, we've gone from trying to champion the women's game to literally demeaning them into the form of just spare wives.
Objectifying. I sincerely apologise. None of that is true.
That's the roots that Linebreak Rugby is built on, though. If you
the sexualisation of women, has been built in from the start. Right, we should probably end there. I think perhaps on that fabulous note.
I mean, if nothing else, time passed, so we've got that going for us.
If nothing else, that's one of my favourite titles I made, just because it was so accurate.
That was a decent chat as well.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, I've been Sav, he's been Corey, the other guy's been Ed.
Hello.
And it's been the Linebreak Rugby podcast. And like Ed said, if nothing else, time definitely passed.
Cheers, guys.
That was all right.
Adios. Right. Yes, end that recording.
Yeah. Oh, you ended immediately, so we're not going to do the whole.
Oh, we can keep on. Mine's still running.
So it's mine. It's. Never mind.
Corey's out.
Corey's
Bye,
ruined
Corey.
it. He's ruined it.
You hear those empty spaces? Corey's still
That was all right.
talking.
That went on a while, I think.
Corey's still
nearly an
talking.
hour. I wasn't so bad.
He just said something great. You
Did he
guys all
though?
missed it.
Did he really?
I've stopped.
Oh, you stopped. Fine, I was. Stop.